welcome to the Future Proof Podcast. This is our monthly podcast where we talk about what we've been working on and any cool stuff that we've been planning. I'm Gregory Avery Weir.
And I'm Melissa Avery Weir. We've had a busy couple months since our last episode.
Yeah, we've been working away on the supplement for Rosette Diceless. That's the second anniversary celebration. Although at this point it's going to be, a little later than the anniversary, but that's fine. I've been spending a bunch of time moving my home.
Yes.
Switching apartments, and just generally, I think this is a time at which the whole human race, and in particular places like the U.S., we're just, not as productive as we sometimes are. But we are making progress. I just edited a very good article by Melissa on spotlighting characters, and we have cool character sheets that I did.
The character sheets are amazing. I'm in love with them. Absolutely. I'm ready to play with them immediately.
And we put a coat of polish on our one-page character sheet and then added a new two-page character sheet that has some extra space for stuff and then some spots for some extra features that are highlighted in the supplemental book.
Yeah.
So we want to get that out soon. There's very little writing left, mostly just layout, images, getting it prepped for going up on various publishers or storefronts or distributors or whatever you want to call them.
Right. Yep. And since this is going to have a print version, we do have to, send off for proofs and make sure that it looks okay in its printed form. So we don't have, a date to give, even though we're pretty close to feature complete on it. If it were just digital, then we could say, this plus 2 weeks, but we're not sure what that shipping time is going to look like, or whether we want to stagger the release or anything like that. We have questions and stuff to figure out. So
that's probably something we should talk about at some point soon.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll figure it out. Don't worry.
Yep.
We've also dealt with some. The word shenanigans appears twice in our podcast outline.
For sure.
for getting our just some of the logistics of our podcast.
Yes, this is super weird. So we have this podcast is available on Google Music, which if you are one of the 5 people who uses Google Music, it's going away.
It's me.
Yeah, me too, for a while. What we did not anticipate is that a podcast part of Google Music is being sunset as well. So Google was like, hey, click this link. We'll transfer your podcast to the new podcast manager. Insert more acronyms and stuff that all sound exactly the same. We did so and it didn't work. It's not indexing our podcast. So unfortunately right now, if you try to find our podcast on Google or whatever Google-related podcast app exists now, you won't find this podcast. So this has been over a month of emailing support back and forth to try and get our measly little podcast to show up, and it's not yet.
It works on all the other services.
It does, and it has involved tweaks to the feed. I'm posting on Reddit, just all sorts of things, and it's one of the kind of core places to have your podcast show up these days, just because it makes it show up nice in Google search results and everything else. So wish me luck, and if anyone has any contacts with Google that I can just be tap tap, hey, just index our damn podcast, please send them my way. So in other operational sort of meta issues, we're dealing with another change of service with regards to Twilio.
Yeah, this is our second Shenanigans entry, and this is going to be a little technical, so feel free to skip forward if you're not interested in hardcore DevOps stuff. But we have a service that we use to keep track of what sites are up and if there's anything erroring out. So we've got majestyofcolors.com and exploitzeroday.com and futureproof games and all this stuff and some internal stuff. And we've been using an app called Cabot, which is an app that runs on Django. And I really like living a lot in the Django Python ecosystem. But it does mean that there are a lot of projects that people create and work on for a while and then kind of aren't maintaining. Right. It's sort of like the Node ecosystem if there was less long-term maintenance. So Cabot is just one of those. It's a great app. It was put together by a company for their internal use, and they published it, and they just kind of haven't been maintaining it as much. And meanwhile, Twilio, which is a service which lets you kind of have computers make phone calls and text messages, is what Cabot was using to call us if a site went down. So like if Exploit Zero Day goes down, Twilio would send us a call and be like, hey, you need to check this out. Unfortunately, Twilio is making a good change to the way that they authenticate their service. Like, it's probably more secure than the way they were doing it before, but Cabot doesn't support it anymore. And Cabot, is getting very few updates. And so we're kind of like, oh boy, what do we do? And so we've moved our emergency notifications, the stuff that we want to get phone calls and text messages on, over to UptimeRobot, which is a real cool site that Melissa's been using for years to manage their sites, and we've used it with FPG in the past. All well and good, but for some reason, UptimeRobot thinks that like 3 of our sites are down and have been for days, and they're fine. They're just fine. We've checked carefully. And it's like our website, and like, this is no good. Like, we need to have good information about this. We need to know that we can trust our alerts. And
I'll interject that getting phone calls costs money, regardless of which service we use. Phone calls specifically cost money. So we want to have it on a service where we can trust that if it calls us, it's really down. And in fact, we often will set delays that are like, let the site be down for at least 5 minutes in case there's like a momentary blip with their database server or something. Just like, it has to be down long enough to be worth the 10 cents it costs to call us. Yeah. And so for it to be down for days and it wants to call us over nothing, it's just unacceptable.
And it's weird because like, there's sites on literally the same server that UptimeRobot is perfectly fine with. Our best theory at the moment is that the way that DreamHost's mod security is set up, it's blocking UptimeRobot because it thinks it's calling us too much or checking us too much.
Only from certain locations.
Right.
Yeah.
So we've put in support with various people. We're figuring it out. But it's one of those things. I don't know. It's a you get what you pay for thing, right? These services are very affordable. And if we paid more, we could get like dedicated hosting where we could manage our own mod security settings and so on. But but for our current budget, this is just sort of the sort of problem we have to deal with. But it does mean that there's sort of this nagging thing, I think, at the back of our heads of like, we don't quite know for sure that everything's okay with our sites.
Right. And so the alternative to switching services was to rewrite the code that connects to Twilio for the phone calls ourselves. So we could have like taken that module out, rewritten it to use the new authentication scheme. We were like, no, that's a few hours of work, which is not a lot, but also we could just switch the service that I am already paying for. Mm-hmm. And here we are. So we might backtrack on that depending on how all these support emails go. Everyone's being cooperative and helping sort things out. It's just kind of shenanigans that I've been using this service for many years, and only now is it kind of given me this grief. So yeah, that's fun.
So speaking of 2020 and the challenges thereof, just got, I guess, some quick housekeeping stuff on what our plans are for moving forward with communicating and some upcoming stuff.
Yeah, so we are switching the podcast and the newsletter to be bi-monthly, meaning every other month, not twice a month, going forward on alternating months. Things are a little jammed up this month, so you're going to get both the podcast and the newsletter at the same time, roughly. But going forward, December will have been the podcast month. And January, you'll get a newsletter. February, you'll get another podcast app. And that's a mixture of the cadence of news, which is pretty slow right now for us, and also the sort of ratio of, I'll say, like community-facing work versus development work versus game design and development work. So like if I have 10 hours a week to work and I spend 5 hours of that on the podcast one week and 5 hours of it on the next week on the newsletter, like that doesn't leave me a lot of time to write articles and sort of do the work of game development. So we're working through the balance of that. So right now, I would say, at least probably until and through spring, maybe, we'll be looking at bi-monthly. So don't expect us, we're not missing episodes and so on. We're just deliberately chilling out a little bit on the pacing of things. So, I mean, I encourage you to sign up for both. If you're listening to this, you're listening to it, but sign up for the newsletter if you're not already. Futureproofgames.com/newsletter, and get pictures and writing and so on and so forth there for the time in between, as well as all of our normal social media stuff. But yeah, that's a change that will relieve some pressure on our heads of feeling like we have to every month come up with 2 episodes worth of content of news and stuff. And second sort of seasonal thing is that it's the holiday season, which you've already been through various fall sales and Halloween sales and whatever, but Christmas, whatever labeling we want to put on it, Christmas, holiday, etc., sales are coming up as well. So we don't have and or can't give dates for when sales start generally, but I will say that we do prefer Itch. It's a great platform, gives to charity, gives a better cut to developers. And so our games will consistently be more discounted on Itch than on other platforms. Not substantially, we're not trying to eat anybody out of house and home on Steam or anything, but you will find that generally our games will be 60% off on Itch and 50% off elsewhere.
And if a game is on Steam, then the Itch version will come with a Steam key. So you'll still get the equivalent. And always worth noting, you can always review a game you bought on Itch on Steam, because the checkbox that you have to click is, I received this game for free, not I didn't pay Steam for it. So, even if you have a game on Itch, you can still review it on Steam.
Yep, exactly.
And you can keep an eye on our Twitter's probably the best way to get that updated news. That's at Play Futureproof on Twitter. All our stuff is on futureproofgames.com. We try and put one post up per sale season up there to let you know about the posts. We're on YouTube as Futureproof Games, where you can get archives of the podcast and of our gaming streams that are Futureproof Plays. And I'm working on catching up on my archives of the Twitch streams that we do. If you've got any questions, comments, suggestions, anything like that, interview requests, all that, you can contact us. You can comment on this post. You can write us at info@futureproofgames.com. You can hit us up on social media. And we're always happy to chat or just hear what you're thinking about.
Yep.
Our theme music is Juparo by Broke for Free, used with permission.